All right, class, here we are on WebSchedule, which is a really terrific tool for you. As you can see immediately, there are links to Canvas and WebSmart, as well as your MySMCCD email. You can also see one of the primary differences between the printed schedule is that you can actually access all of the colleges in the district's schedules just simply by checking boxes. Or you can really narrow it down to by individual campus or by two campuses if you want to do that. It's great because it's very searchable. It's updated pretty regularly. You can filter out if you want to look for online and hybrid classes. It will show you if a campus is off-site or offered at a high school or community center, for example. So it's a really nice tool. You'll also see that you can get PDF versions of the schedules and catalogs from each of the colleges. So the printed schedule that I showed earlier, you can actually get a PDF of that as well. Again, here's where you can filter options for classes. One thing I do want to show is the difference of how it looks when classes have already begun and started. So what I've done is shown you an example of COM 130 and I've filtered it out to the College of San Mateo. So once a semester starts, you will either see it, closed or in progress, which doesn't really accurately tell you whether or not a class is open. Okay, so that can be problematic if you've passed the add drop deadline. At this point, the add drop deadline has passed for classes, so you'll see closed for a lot of full term classes. But before a semester has started or before a class has started, what's really cool is it will tell you if a class is open, right? So that's a really great feature, because if you see that green open and the registration time has started for you, you can actually go ahead and register for that class. For example, there are two Career 127 classes that go over job search, and they don't start until February for the in-person and March for the online version, right? Or for the Saturday version. Students can register for that. Even though the semester has started, they can register for these late start classes. I'm going to show you another example using Film 100 of a look of when a class is open for wait lists, right? So another thing that you might see is if a class has a wait list, right? So earlier we just showed the Career 127 classes are both open as late start courses. But there are two Film 100 courses that start in March that already have wait lists, right? So WebSchedule is really helpful in showing you how many students are on the wait list for a class, right? Another thing that can come up is some classes may have limits to the wait list. So in the cases of these Film 100s, it seems like it hasn't hit that maximum. But if a class hits the maximum number of students on a wait list, depending on what is set by the department, it will say wait list closed. Okay? So again, if you are on a wait list for one of these late start classes or a wait list in the future, know it's really important to check your email daily to see if the instructor is able to add you, because they will send an email to your school email. But I just thought that this would be a good way to show you how to navigate it. Now, before a semester starts, it's really pretty straightforward to navigate WebSchedule. But again, once a semester has begun like it has now where we're at, it can get a little challenging. So what do you do once a semester starts and you're trying to look for classes that are available? Well, what I would recommend is on WebSchedule, what you want to do is actually scroll down towards the middle of the page. So go down, not quite to the full bottom, but scroll to the middle of the page. And what that is going to do is it's going to take you to download schedules, right? So right now, hypothetically, if you are looking for classes in late January, early February at CSM, for example, what you would want to do is click on New Classes or even Short Classes and Open Classes as tools to help you find classes to add after the semester has started. So what these are actually spreadsheets of classes that are either open, that are new and recently added, or classes that are short courses that maybe start late. The ones that start early you may be out of luck in, but there may be some like those film classes or counseling classes that start in March or February that you may be able to add. So what I've done here is I've clicked on the new classes, and it takes me to a spreadsheet of new classes for Spring 2020. And this report is usually generated on a daily basis, so you can see how up to date it is based on the report date and time. But it will show you some classes that might not be in the printed schedule that you saw that are actually courses that are new and going to be offered that semester. So one great example that I can point out, and a really popular class, is the Ethnic Studies 101, Latin American History and Culture. That's a class that is oftentimes waitlisted or full pretty fast each semester. So what happened is, because there are so many classes that were full, the department was able to open another class, and you can see that this is a late start class that's still open that you can take, and it starts in March. Another cool tool that you can use is using the PDFs to the schedule and catalog, which also leads you to archives or older copies of schedules and classes. And as I mentioned, again, it's a great way to see what historically is offered in semesters, or if you need to look back, say at a semester you took maybe a year ago or 2 years ago, you can go back to that class schedule and kind of see, okay, who was my instructor? If you need a letter of rec or you need some reference, you can simply click on one of these icons for depending on which college you're at. But again, WebSchedule as a tool, you can you have all colleges in the district in there, or you can narrow it down to particular colleges, for example. So let's go ahead and click on the archives. So what I'm going to do after clicking Schedule and Classes, it will take me to this page, and I'm going to go ahead and click Schedule Archive. And you can see it goes all the way back to spring 2007. Again, you can also do this, as we learned, with the catalog as well. You can go back to the archives of different catalogs that we've had. Another thing I want to show you is what happens when you click More Options. What it does is it gives you the ability to filter out by days and time. So for example, if you work all day on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you might want to look for only Monday, Wednesday, Friday classes, or online classes, weekend classes, or maybe night classes. It can also filter it out depending on what kind of class it is, right? So for example, is it an online course like Counseling 120 is, the section you're taking? There's also an in-person version of Counseling 120 that's offered by a couple instructors. The other thing is, what if the class is offered, say, off-site at a community center or at a high school? You can filter it by that to make sure, okay, I really want to take a class on campus. Sometimes students will sign up for a class and they'll say, hey, I didn't realize this class was offered at the King Center. I thought this class would be at CSM, or I didn't know that this class was offered at San Mateo High School. I thought I would be taking a class at the college campus. Or maybe those sites are convenient for you and you want to take one off-site. So just note that as well. You can also see that it differentiates it from day classes and evening, online and not online or in person. So this one in particular has the indicator that it is an off-campus class at the Martin Luther King Center, for example. So it's really important to understand how to work it and how to use it. Also really important, I've seen students do this. It's really critical to keep an eye out on the college it's offered. So a lot of times in counseling or in classes, a student will say, oh, well, I was just looking for a Social 100 class. I didn't know it was at Kenyatta, or I didn't know it was at Skyline, and I can't get there in time because my class at CSM ends at this time. So remember, you can filter it out by location as well. So I really think this is a good tool. You can see the CRNs are there. Those are really important for the classes, the day of the week, the instructor, when the class meets. So from the 15th to the of January to the 20th of May in the case of this class, and then the time. And again, the location in this particular case, it won't be a building at CSM because it is offered off-site at the King Center. The last thing I want to say is that the web schedule, unlike the printed schedule, is very similar to the catalog, where it actually has the capacity and the space to give a description of the class, as well as more details on the transferability and degree requirement specifics. It can also give you links to the textbook that's offered for the class, if any, the materials fees, the building location, other options for the class. This one shows it's a 0 textbook class, day class, but it's on a weekend. So hopefully this has helped you in really knowing how to navigate WebSchedule and the paper schedule, and also knowing the difference between class schedule and a catalog for sure. So just note that we are going to have a quiz, so be sure to really study up on the lectures as well as the reading material. I want you to go ahead and play with WebSchedule and use the PDF of the printed schedule as well, just to get familiar with it. Have yourself a great weekend.